about your group at this point?
The guys that were here last year, I know they're hungry. There's a little chip on their shoulder about the finishing part, but the new guys, um, I know that they're going to add good value into the group.
And in terms of the state of the game and defensive linemen, you have the classic designations of nose tackle and rush and all that, but how important is it to have somebody in each of those boxes? And how much are you guys trying to move towards maybe you need to be able to do all of this stuff?
I mean, it's double edge. Um, you want obviously you want big guys in the middle, but the state of college football right now, the offense goes so fast that sometimes you can't afford to put everybody in ideal situations, position-wise. So they have to know everything. They have to know all four positions, and because they're a close-knit unit that they're the tip of the spear for the defense, so they got to be on the same page.
What did Sam Green do in high school that, first of all, got you interested in him? And I'll follow that up with what has he done since he's been here to kind of get
the physicality that he plays with. He plays with very, very. He looks for contact. Like his contact courage is unreal, and I love the way he plays the game. And he's one of those guys that is versatile, that can play all four positions. So he's done a great job so far. Adapting, adjusting to college football life, and he loves the game. You can tell by how he plays.
The margins are so slim in this game and everything's happened so fast out there. I'm just curious, when you look at last year's film, how far away were you guys from being the defense that you want to be? And where do you think you've gained the most ground? Or where do you expect to gain the most ground this training camp?
Yeah, always based on results. Like, you look at the results, that's reality. But we are way past last year. Right now, we're so ready to go for a big one this year, but taking it one day at a time, one practice at a time. I think the depth, not necessarily talent-wise, just by number, just sheer numbers, is probably the biggest improvement right now.
Do you expect to have more guys that you trust on Saturdays that you can roll out? You can hit the other team with bigger numbers than maybe you could last year?
That's the purpose of camp right now. By the end of camp, that's one of the goals of camp is who's trustworthy in a championship level. So that's one of the main goals that we have to find out.
Bear, Anthony, Keon, all pretty big guys. Is that really a theme kind of heading into this before the spring and off season, just to add that size?
Heck yeah, man. I'm a big guy. I love big bodies. So heck yeah, that's part of the theme. But it's not, we don't want big guys that can't move. We all have the ability to move. So I think that's every D-line coach, every D-line, every team in the country is looking for. That's what they're looking for is big guys that can move.
How was it that Bear kind of first ended up on your radar?
How is it there? Well, when you jump in the transfer portal, it's on the radar. Yeah, so when we saw him in the portal, that's when I took a shot.
We talked last year about how transfer recruiting, everything is sped up, and you don't have time to maybe find out everything that you'd want to. How tight do you guys have that process now? And maybe if you just use an example, Bear or anybody, just like, we saw this, these are the boxes that had to be checked, and that's kind of what.
It's very important for you to do your homework. Got to check obviously what kind of person they are. I'm not saying that if they're bad or not, it's just if they fit what we're looking for as a team, as a program, as our culture. So I think that's pretty tight. I mean, we're pretty on top of what we're looking for, and we will take our time to get the right person in.
And Lincoln has said that, maybe guys who start asking about NIL or collective stuff, maybe that's a sign that this isn't the best place for them. But how often is that coming up? Because outside, it seems like such a big deal. But when you have to sit down with a potential transfer, what is the message and how often is it coming up?
I sell who we are as a staff, who I am as a coach. I have no idea about finance and NIL and all that stuff. Like what I do best is try to develop guys and teach them the game of football. And you hope that that's what they're looking for too, on top of whatever outside interest they have, example like NIL. I will refer them to the NIL people and guys that are expert for it, especially our head coach. That's what we do. But for the most part, I mean, majority, if not all of it, that I barely talk about NIL.
Where was it that Bear really first stood out, just like tools wise? And where do you also see that, you really need to work with him, but still a young guy?
Yep.
Obviously.
Size, explosiveness on the field was pretty impressive. But like everyone else, including myself, the mindset, the maturity part, learning how to handle the day-to-day operations type of stuff. So, but he's a phenomenal young man. I'm so excited he's part of our team.
Yeah.
How does Corey kind of come along? And obviously, he's a guy like Cooley, but he's kind of been seen as like the guy, especially coming right after Drake Jackson.
There's going to be a huge opportunity for Corey to step up and do his thing. I think he's committed himself to getting his mindset right in the off season and working out hard. So we will see. It's exciting, definitely.
Where have you seen him make strides? Maybe this
The
offseason,
mindset part,
especially?
that was the biggest challenge to him, was the mindset. Learn to love the game, learn to how to approach the game and attack when it's required to be an elite football player. And we will see where it goes.
Any sign that really showed you that, wow,
Yeah.
he really did things that
Yeah, in spring ball, 2 springs ago in fall camp, I don't think Corey could finish 2 practices in a row. And spring ball, he did a great job of going all the way to the end.
Is that kind of the big obvious sign? Just be there and be that guy every day.
Being there is that's like the standard, and then dominating while you're there is what we're trying to get them to. So it's being there. Everybody can be there.
Yeah.
If you don't show up, then you are really behind the table. So be there and dominate while you're there.
Just curious from your perspective, because you got some new linebackers in. There's a lot of talk about, all the levels impact one another, but have you felt the impact of the linebackers this year? Have you seen some improvement from them, or are there things that they're doing better at this point?
My eyes was solely on the D-line, and hopefully we can impact the linebackers. I don't know. I don't look for the linebackers to impact us. We know that we can impact the linebackers and the back end of our defense, so that's where my focus has been.
Guys like Anthony, Keon, Bear, it seems like they're almost interchangeable along the line. Is that kind of how you guys
That's the
feel?
fun part about it. We can move them everywhere. Yeah.
Jack said you guys challenged him with that when he got here, that we want you to do everything. How is he doing? How
Great.
comfortable are you with him at
Very
each of the different spots?
Mindset, intelligence, those are 2 part of the game that you must have, and Jack has shown in spring that he has those. So we're excited to see, because he's a veteran. He has some experience. So we're excited to see how he fine-tunes some stuff and how he executes throughout this fall camp. But he's very versatile.
Is the interchangeability something you're always kind of looking for as a defensive line coach, or is this a unique situation that their skill sets kind of allow for that?
You kind of want you want both. You want to look for guys to be versatile, so that way you can be versatile as a defense and a defensive front. But if you don't have that, then whatever particular set of skills that the young man has, then you put him in that position. But we're very, very fortunate. We have a lot of versatile guys.
What's the strength among the group? Where do you think that you guys?
Numbers. We have more numbers this year than last year.
Yeah. So from that perspective, you want to take strides just in terms of guys
Yes.
showing that they want to get in the field and really prove that to you. Is that?
No. When a guy sub out and the other guy go in, there's not a big drop off. You want to make sure that they all play up to the standard or the level that we feel like it's a championship level.
And that's determined among the competition within the group.
That's the beauty
Day-to-day.
about competition. They
Yeah.
push each other, and that standard keeps raising. That line keeps raising.
Where do you think they're starting now as you head into fall camp? Where is that line?
I'll tell you after practice 4 or 5.
4 or 5?
Yeah.
I think I'm only going to 1 and 2, so you can't.
Oh, you gotta come back.
Yeah.
You gotta come back.
And a couple of the assistants were talking about just sort of building on even success and kind of always changing the philosophy. In what ways do you feel like, maybe even, I don't know if it was led by Alex or just in general with the defense, you guys have kind of added to the philosophy that you had from the assistants?
I don't understand the question. Say
Just like constantly like soul searching or self-improving. Like, was there any element of kind of changing the approach with the defense, or just how the defense?
Yeah, Now, the change is necessary, especially when the year is new. So because you always want to get better. If we won the championship last year, we would have still tried to improve. So that's the main focus right now.
I just wondered if there was any specific thoughts, hey, we've changed our mind a little bit on this philosophy.
No. Philosophy, scheme, all that stuff. They're constantly changing. They're constantly changing, and you have to constantly change in those ways. Not some are major, some are minor, but for the most part, the execution part is the main focus of why you change in production, why you want to get better. So it's example-wise, we are hard on ourselves of how bad some of those plays were executed, but for the most part, we're excited for the opportunity.
It seems like Alex is just generally adept at changing, recognizing that something's not working, and thinking, we got to do this differently, maybe.
Oh, yeah. Alex is doing a great job leading us. Alex is doing a phenomenal job recognizing some of our weaknesses and our strength, and he's strengthening both.
So we asked you a little bit about transfer recruiting. I'm just curious because you still got to recruit high schoolers, and you have to project, right? Because the odds of them showing up day one, that's hard, right? So how has the transfer portal reality and the way rosters changed? Has that impacted high school recruiting? Has that impacted conversations you have with high schoolers who?
Conversation with high schools, you still encourage them to do their best, and we're going to recruit the guys that we feel like that has the qualities that we're looking for. So maybe by the numbers, but for the most part, we look at the high school level the same way right now. Who's dominating, who's progressing, who has a high ceiling, things like that. And if the portal comes up, then we adjust on the way. But you still got to recruit the same way. High school players are. You still need them in your program.
Sam came in early and had obviously a solid spring.
Yeah.
Elijah Hughes was another guy that I saw a few times back in Washington, D.C., and just he has this look about him like he could be something down the road that's pretty dominating for you guys. What is it realistically? Can he make an impact for you this season, being that he wasn't here in the spring?
That is the beauty about this game. What you put in the summer and the spring and fall camp, you always have an opportunity. And he's one of those guys that I tell you about that has high ceiling. Well, his game, the clock is ticking, and we want them faster. We can't say, well, we're going to wait next year for it. No, we're going to give Elijah an opportunity this year to see what he can do, how much he can grasp, and how fast he can run the defense in the game of football and see him dominate. But I'm fired up about it.
When those young guys come in, who are your older guys that are kind of showing these guys and helping with the transition?
The guys that played a lot, the Solo, Tyrone, Stanley, Dejan, those are the guys that I count on to go and help them, lead those guys through their first year of college.
Can you talk a little bit about Tyrone? Because obviously he was a transfer last year, and kind of the stats and the Pro Football Focus all stuff suggested he did really well. He gave you guys a lot. How do you grade out his season, and what's the next step for him?
I thought he was very, very productive last year in terms of us putting in a nose tackle, sometimes at end, for a guy that we considered raw and still new to the game of football. This is a huge, huge year for him and Stanley and Dejan Benton, because those are guys that had the experience within our defense. So I'm really going to count on those guys to play at a different level because of the comfort that they have with our defense and familiarity, more than comfortable. So those are the guys that I'm excited about, and Tyrone is probably in the lead with that group along with Stanley.
So the guys we've asked about, so many players last year would tell us we don't even want practice to end, which is not something we're used to hearing about. And I'm just curious, how do you engineer that? What's the key behind that?
That is part of the product that we're trying to sell, is that this is the best game ever built. This is the best game. So if they come in with the right mindset, it's nothing but fun, preparation-wise, competition-wise, pushing each other, and most importantly, the opportunity to do something special. So that's something that we're selling. That's a product we're selling right now.
And then just kind of connected to that, I just want to talk to you about the phrase coaching hard. And that's evolved. I'm sure from the time when you played, the
100%.
definition of coaching hard
Man,
and
you
coaching
come up with
kids
some
hard.
interesting subject, man. Yeah.
Well, for you, the best. But
Let's
I'm
go.
just curious, coaching today's players hard, what's different? What do you have to establish with them? How has the game changed from that point of view?
They want to be great. In fact, they want to be elite. So when they come in, they want to see if you have what it takes to help them become elite. So, and that includes coaching hard. Are you on top of your stuff as a coach, preparation wise? And it comes down to just being honest with them. You know, understanding your ideals. What's something supposed to look like, and then what's the plan to get there? And if you paint that picture to them very clearly, that's, to me, that's the new coaching hard, is tell them the truth, the honest truth.
And is any of that something you can give a guy, or you can help maybe spark in a guy who maybe doesn't have it on day one?
Great question.
Are there examples of that maybe in your career or on this team?
Man, there's guys that like the game, there's guys that love the game, and the guys that like the game, you got to sell it. So what you're asking relates to the topic we talked about before, is you got to sell that this game is the best game ever, and they have the skill set to dominate and do something with it. So yes, you can see guys that started out liking the game, and once you open up the opportunity and the idea or a vision or a picture that they can say, wow, I can do that, and then you see them flourish. And yeah.
Is the hope that we might be talking about Corey? Is that an example of a guy maybe we might be?
Maybe.
To be
At this level, it's a big difference between liking football and loving football.
you can tell.
You gotta love it, man. You gotta love it.
With Keon, what does his experience bring to the room?
Somebody that you can do adjustments real easy with. Someone that understands a different blocking scheme, how to attack them. Yeah, he's seen it, he's felt it. Seeing it and feeling it are two different things. Him understanding that feeling is a huge advantage. Someone with experience.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
Thank you.